Greetings, ghosts and ghouls, and welcome to Bad Boo, a podcast conjured for the curious where we explore all things frights, flicks, and folklore.
We are your haunting hosts, Sam and Jody, guiding you through every episode of occult exploration and holding your hand the whole way through.
So if you like the sound of spooks, screams, and symphonies, keep listening as we unravel our mystic matter for this week.
In today's episode, we'll be uncovering the horrors of demons and the evils that they inflict upon helpless souls.
Oh boy.
We're in for a big one today, guys.
We are. We're in for a pretty good treat. So do you want to kick us off with what is a demon?
So, a demon is generally defined as a malevolent, supernatural, non-human entity, such as an evil spirit, fiend, or devil, especially one thought to possess a person or act as a tormentor in hell. This derives from the Greek word from daimon, which is spelled D-A-I-M-O-N, and it means a supernatural being or spirit, but this appears across many religions and mythologies and even folklore and a bunch of different cultures.
It's interesting. A lot of these kind of words always come from like a word that sounds similar and then it's changed.
Yeah.
Like demon.
I'm pretty sure a lot of the human language derives from Latin.
Of course, yeah. I think a lot of English is derivative of Latin.
Yeah, so I think that's where a lot of these words come from because Latin influenced so many different languages.
Yeah.
So, yeah, doesn't surprise me there.
Obviously, while the term is most often associated with evil, like obviously when we think of the word demon, we think hell, the devil, Satan, bad things, you know. Its ancient Greek root, which you said, which is daemon, originally meant a supernatural being or spirit, like you say, which could be good or bad.
Yeah, it was just an overarching term for both of them. It didn't necessarily mean bad at the time.
Yeah, and obviously in today's sort of religious context, a demon is seen as an entity that causes harm, but in a non-religious context, it can often refer to a person with great energy or someone who is extremely mischievous.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I'd call someone with great energy, oh, you're a demon. But then like someone on like a motorbike or something, a bit of a demon, you know, that type of thing.
I get what you mean, yeah. I feel like it's more of a example of, if I was to think about it, it's like, oh, if a toddler is misbehaving really badly, then you'd be like, oh, he's a little demon.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Sort of like, you know,
yeah,
funny little word to call someone who's a little bit edgy.
Yeah. But someone with great energy, I don't really know if that's like the right way to go about it. Don't call people demons.
Yeah.
Call them other things.
You probably get a knuckle sandwich heading your way.
But anyway, the general terms for where demons come from, there is a religious side of it and also a mythological side of it that we kind of just touched on a second ago with the religious context and the more supernatural context as well. So, from ancient cultures, kind of similar to our first episode where we went back to ancient Mesopotamia, just as we did for the vampires and horror side of everything.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about Nosferatu. If you haven't seen episode 1, go and watch episode 1. It's the origin of horror.
And the origin of Bad Boo.
Exactly.
It's both. Great.
But for demons, we go back to that exact place as well, because that's where the earliest beliefs came from for demons, as they were considered the offspring of a goddess who could leave the underworld and terrorize mortals. So it was believed to be like her offspring, essentially.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
A bit like the Queen Alien from Aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly
Terrorising
like that.
people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not great.
Nope.
Then you have the Abrahamic religion. So in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, demons are considered like evil spirits that may tempt people or cause harm.
Yeah.
That's the typical, like I suppose in the Christian culture, that's, you know, like United Kingdom and stuff, that's typically what most people would, when they hear the word demon, again, like we said earlier, would associate that word with, you know, temptation, harm, malevolence.
But I feel like when you hear the word demon, obviously depending on what religion you're a part of or not a part of, but the general kind of overarching idea is you go to, okay, demon, so God, church, like Jesus, crucifixes, that type of thing. So it is very much derivative of like the more Christian background, at least in the Western world.
Absolutely.
Which is obviously like there's so many different cultures and things out there and religions. So
there's so many different iterations of a demon.
Yeah.
Isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, it's so vast.
Yeah, and I think in those Abrahamic religions, like we said about Judaism or Islam as well, is there's the more definitive kind of fight between good and evil.
Yeah.
So as much as it might not be crucifixes and etc., because that's more Christian related, it is still very much like demons are related to the devil and the devil was bad.
Yeah, exactly.
No matter what they may call it in that specific religion. But yeah.
Yeah.
After that, we then have the kind of Greek origins, which is obviously where the word comes from. And the concept for that, as we previously mentioned, meant a benevolent or malevolent spirit. And for instance, that particularly was used against the Socrates, who spoke of this daemon as a spirit guide for him.
Yeah, I find it so interesting seeing all these different interpretations of the same word, the same thing.
Well, it really makes you understand like how far it goes back, and that it's not just kind of like a modern concept.
It goes all the way back to the very start of humanity. Essentially, the concept of a god and a demon, like devil, you know, Satan. The good and bad conflict has been there since the dawn of time. You know.
Yeah. But bringing us back to a more modern focus.
Yeah, in modern religious perspectives, like some contemporary faiths, demons are seen as fallen angels or spirits that try to lead people away from God.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's quite prevalent in pop culture.
100%.
As well, the fallen angel sort of ideology.
That's the pushed idea for it, isn't it?
Yeah, and you see that a lot in like movies, like characters that are like supposed to be this great thing, they fall, you know, falling down, you know. It was all over the place.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, we're about to get into that even more, actually, because the next question that we usually cover in our episodes is, where does it come from?
Yeah.
So where do demons come from? And for this, there are actually two main origins that we have kind of just touched on. So we have the fallen angel side of it, but then we also have another kind of biblical origin for it, which are called the Nephilim, which I'll explain in a second. And additionally to those two, we have two kind of slightly less explored, but still two just as worthy explanations, which are anthropological and psychological perspectives.
Yeah.
Which we're going to go through right now. So to start, let's go with the fallen angels that we just touched on a second ago.
Yeah. So like we said earlier, and like we touched on earlier, the most common belief is that demons are fallen angels who are cast out of heaven along with Satan. This is linked to a segment of the Bible,
Revelation 12.
Yeah, which describes a dragon which is depicted as Satan being cast down and dragging a third of the stars with him. Though this is subject to interpretation, this is just one of the interpretations that we found whilst researching. And another interpretation separates demons into two groups. So this would be those who rebelled with Satan and were cast to earth, and those who sinned by procreating with humans and were chained in darkness. So I think that interpretation is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Like those who were sinned by procreating with humans and chained in darkness.
Yeah.
Like a separation of into two groups of what a demon is categorized as being. But again, both of those interpretations are all to do with that sort of alliance with Satan.
Yeah.
And there's that punishment for it.
100%. And like I said before, the first two that we're going to go through are very like religion orientated, and I think that just because Christianity is the most kind of pushed one in modern Western media,
of course,
that is why it's such a kind of bigger idea and like bigger known story than the rest of them.
Yeah.
Like as soon as you think about like where did the devil come from, you think fallen angel was kicked out of heaven by God, which all derive obviously from like a Christian background.
Yeah.
Which leads us on to the second religious origin, which is that demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. And for those of you that don't know, the Nephilim are giants that were born from human women that had physical altercations with angels that have come from heaven. So it's kind of similar to the last one when it says about angels procreating with humans, but this is the exact story for that. So it is described in, again, the Bible, and it basically speaks about how after a great flood destroys the Nephilim, but their hybrid from nature left them all as disembodied spirits that constantly seek out a host, which is where the idea of a demon wanting a soul comes from.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
In the sense of, what we know a demon to be. Clearly where it is, the origins of that perspective.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that this story of it kind of coming from an angel and then being put into like a half angel, half human demigod situation that then is skewed by something else.
Yeah.
And makes it want to seek out a soul.
Yeah.
Is also, I'm not sure if it's the exact same in other religions, but I'm pretty sure it's quite a similar story of it being like fallen from heaven or some type of kind of godly mishap.
Yeah.
For a lot of other ones, like we previously mentioned in one of the other episodes about how they have jinns in Islamic beliefs, but those ones are actually created from like smokeless fire and can be good or evil.
Yeah.
But it's generally the same kind of like natural tampering process.
Yeah.
Within a religious text.
Yeah. I mean, it all boils down to the idea of going against, in this religious context, going against like God.
Yeah.
And doing something that is not necessarily seen as right. And from what we've discussed here, that rebellious nature is often associated with demonic sort of origins.
Yeah, well, it's basically saying that compliance is the only option.
Compliance, yeah.
And so rebellion is devilish.
Yeah.
Essentially, and it's purposely dragging you to the dark parts of the world, according to the Bible. Which leads us on to something a little less religious, which is the anthropological and psychological perspective, which suggests that demons are actually a human creation, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
And that they are born from the fear of the unknown, and that they are used to represent forces like nature, illness, or hostile groups.
Yeah, definitely see that across culture.
Yeah, 100%.
You sort of hear about that, in real life horror stories, or in the news, or in pop culture, or in media. These iterations of a demon are very prevalent.
100%. And the first one that I did mention was like fear of the unknown. And so from that perspective, it's basically saying that humans are the creators of demons, as they've come up with them as a face to the unknown causes of suffering, which I do understand to an extent. It's kind of saying like, if we don't know what's causing this, then why not blame it on something else entirely? Yeah. And to make it like a demon that's meant to be seen as like a source of evil and bad things and illness and all these negative things. It does make sense.
Yeah.
And it basically means that from the human's perspective, it was unknown causes of illness, death, or even natural disasters were instantly attributed to evil demons because they had malicious intent. But unfortunately, still kind of nowadays leads to the demonization of people that are like out of groups, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sort of outcasts is a typical word that people use to describe these people that are often seen as being demonized or blamed for accidents or harm. You know? So there'll be some terrible accidents or terrible events that occur around the world, and people instantly finger point.
Yeah.
Exactly. Demonizing people and saying it's their fault. Generalization can be a really terrible thing.
Yeah, and it really makes sense of like where that word demonized has come from.
Yeah,
because it's used so kind of frugally in modern media nowadays. Yeah. Of like, this person is being demonized, or this specific group is being demonized, or this group is demonizing these other people, etc., etc. Whether it's religion or race or sexuality or class, whatever it may be. People do demonize each other left, right, and center in the world today. Yeah. And it's really, really unfortunate. But it's kind of ironic that that word has come from creatures with like malicious intent. Yeah. And it's still, when you are demonizing something, you are kind of going at it with malicious intent. Yeah. So it all ties into the big idea of everything being malicious, basically, and evil, and not of a positive nature in the slightest.
I mean, I think it all boils down to the idea that, it completely stems from the fact that there's good and evil in the world, and that even though these are like anthropological or psychological sort of perspectives and maybe non-religious, it still is derivative of those like super early religious texts, like the earliest, like the Bible, for example, that there is good and evil, and the people that do demonize others in society are the perfect embodiment of a demon.
Yeah,
Really.
exactly.
They sort of fit the mold.
Yeah, so when you read the Bible and it says that there's like demon walking among man, or whatever that kind of note may say, that demon walking among man is that person that is demonizing another group based on their beliefs or how they look, or etc., etc. Because unfortunately it is part of some people's human nature to be malicious and to be malignant in their intent. And that's where the word demonized comes from, basically.
And that's where you have, like I said, good and evil has to exist, has to coexist, unfortunately.
Yeah. Everything has to be balanced in the world.
Yeah. And it separates the good from the evil.
And just to kind of balance out the end of the anthropological perspective, we do also have a slight bit on animism, which is the ancient belief suggesting that everything in the world has a spirit of sorts, and that over time, some spirits that were perceived as evil during their life leads them to the concept of becoming demons.
Yeah.
Which does, I suppose, make sense to an extent as well, because it's kind of saying that anything that was deemed bad or negative within its lifetime kind of leads it to becoming more negative and developing evil intent, and then slowly turning itself into what is the concept of a demon.
Yeah.
Which
sort of self-proclaimed type thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Off the back of that, we also need to look at what different types of demons there are. We know what a demon is,
and we know where they come from. Yep.
We know their origins, and obviously they come in many, many different forms. So there are many different types of demons, and they can be classified in many ways, including like even just by their role in the world, or in the sense in hell.
Yeah.
For example, like the 7 princes of hell, which represent the 7 deadly sins, which is quite famous. I mean, most people in Western culture know, or have at least heard of the 7 deadly sins.
If not from the Bible, then from the TV show.
Yeah, there
exactly.
We go. This is often by their origin or tradition, for example, like Jewish or Islamic or Hindu or Christian demonology, or by their abilities or characteristics like imps or rakshas or the mazikim, which we'll go on to in a second, because they all come from different religious backgrounds, but often represent the same kind of things, the same concepts.
Exactly. It is the same concept, just across different parts of the globe, essentially. And just to get into a little bit about the characteristics and roles aspect of it, we'll speak mostly about the 7 deadly sins for this one, as it's the most common classification, particularly from medieval Christian demonology, which, like I said, is the kind of like largest one across Western Europe and the Western world. And this basically explains that there are archdemons that are associated for each sin, because sins are obviously associated with the devil and his works. So for pride, we have the demon Lucifer. For greed, we have Mammon. For lust, we have Asmodeus. For envy, we have Leviathan. For gluttony, we have Beelzebub. Then wrath is Satan, and sloth is Belphegor. And there are smaller ones as well. So we have imps, for example, which are small, mischievous demons that are relatively harmless and are kind of like at the lower bit of the food chain.
Yeah.
And we also have legion, which are large groups of demons that share a single mind and a will, so kind of like a hive mind type thing. You'll usually find those in areas that have multiple different demons that all kind of act towards the same purpose. So those are very, very dark places.
Yeah.
People speak a lot about them in kind of like older hospitals or penitentiaries or sanatoriums, just because there's been a lot of bad things that have happened there. So it's like loads of bad things have happened across one place. They've embodied themselves into darker things, but they all have the same intent, which is to kind of grapple with you and your soul.
It's interesting because obviously if you're talking medically, the word legion, when someone has like, it's like lesion, and that kind of idea of like spots or like a lesion of some sort. Yeah. It could very well come from that, that word.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just putting it together like a group of them that come from the same
Yeah,
sort of
no,
word.
it is kind of surprising how embedded these words are in normal kind of day-to-day language that are so commonly associated in the description of demons and evil. Yeah. Like now that we're getting into it, it's a bit like, oh,
You're starting
Like,
to,
why is that here? Why is that describing that?
yeah,
Type of thing.
it starts putting the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah.
And obviously we have different traditional demonology like classifications in other religions. So like Jewish demonology there's like the Shedim, which are foreign gods or spirits, the Mazikim, which are harmers or spirits that can cause damage, and then there's the Ruin, which are evil spirits often classified by their time of activity. So again, it's a bit more niche,
Yeah.
I find, than the 7 deadly sins, but yet there's crossovers there.
And for those of you that are familiar with the different entities that are within these different religions, a few of you might be aware of Dybbuk's as well for the Jewish one, just from my own memory. They aren't commonly associated with demonic behavior, but they are heavily tied with evil spirits, and they're basically like objects or items that are used to entrap evil spirits, and they were used a lot for loved ones during the war times, because people believed that it was a way to like save their souls, but also a lot of people believe that where they've been trapped in there, it's made them turn to this more evil side. I mean, there's really famous ones as well.
Yeah.
But this doesn't just spread across Jewish and Christian belief systems.
Oh no.
This is all across the world, and it even goes to Hindu mythology, for example, where we have Rakshasas, which I'm probably completely butchering, but these are belligerent, like shape-changing demons.
So shapeshifters.
There are also Asuras, which are demigods, and Vetalas, which are kind of bat-like creatures and spirits. And there is finally the Pisachas, which, excuse my pronunciation on these words, but those ones are cannibalistic demons.
And I think in that Hindu one particularly, it's very notable that a lot of those, well, the ones that you read out there are like physical. It tends to be like physical descriptions of them in terms of what they look like. You know, like shape-changing, bat-like, cannibalistic. It's kind of very physical descriptions over what we have had, which is more like emotional attributes to them.
Exactly. And just off the back of that, while we were reading the one for the first one, which is the Rakshasas, which is spelled Rakshasas, for those of you wondering, that's why my pronunciation is a little bit off. But where it speaks about it being a shape-changing demon, obviously Hindu religion is very big in places like India. And for those of you that don't know, my mum was born in India, but when she was born there and she lived there for maybe the first 5 or 6 years of her life, her family and her grandparents used to tell her tales of creatures called churales, who were like shape-shifting creatures. I suppose they'd be skinwalkers, yeah. So that's interesting that there's ideas of churales in India, but probably spread across different cultures as well, because you have wendigos in like Native American cultures, and they are kind of like what we would describe as like kind of evil spirits or entities. They kind of seem like they have the same powers or like lower grade powers than these demons, you know? Like a churale is much different than a Rakshasa. But it's still classified as a demon. It's just a different name for it. So I wonder if it's the same or if it's just a different kind of area of it.
It might be to do with different parts or different countries that celebrate or follow like Hindu religion. You know, that's my take on it. I think.
It's just so interesting that there's such like a cross kind of breed between all of these different things.
And they're very different, like I said, but yet they sort of follow the same sort of general principle. They will follow the same theme, where it's often malevolent or a little bit disturbing as well. Obviously there's Islamic mythology as well, like Ifrits, which are described as powerful, intelligent or cunning jinn, so spirits, who are often evil, and like say jinn who are like, it's a broad category of supernatural beings in Islam, some of which can be demonic. It's a little less like specific and niche, but yet it's carries the same overarching sort of description of a demon.
Yeah.
That carries through all of these religions.
100%. And that kind of leads us back to the Christian demonology, which is that there are the archdemons like we spoke about. So those are powerful ones like the 12 that we mentioned in the first place.
Yeah.
Then there are also fallen angels who rebelled against God and were cast out of heaven. And there's this entire hierarchy system within Christian demonology that relates to hell and the kind of jobs that these different demons are meant to carry out, and basically their ranking in the system of Satan, essentially.
Yeah. There are obviously some demons that are known by specific names as well, such as Lilith, which is a female demon in Jewish mythology, and Dagon, which is a Semitic god or demon, and Abaddon, which is a demon associated with destruction.
Yeah, so those ones have they're in their own category completely. They have their own names.
Yeah.
Their own I feel like they also have their own belief systems behind them as well, because I know that with particularly Lilith, people much more are likely to treat her like a deity.
Yeah.
And are much likely to kind of create their own belief systems behind that and leave offerings and do prayers, etc., etc.
Yeah, that's
so
interesting.
they're kind of in their own subcategory basically.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the hierarchy that we just mentioned, again, this just kind of overarches for Christianity for the most part, as that's the easiest one to kind of research into in our part of the world. We have the top ones, which are the archdemons. As I said, they're the kind of ones that rule the place, essentially. They are the 12 initial ones that we mentioned at the start, including Lucifer, Satan, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And those are the most powerful ones overall. We then have the higher demons, who are intelligent entities who have honed in their magic over centuries. So the more kind of, I suppose, it feels bad to call them talented, but talented within their field.
Yeah.
Of mischief. There are then lesser demons, which are more instinct driven in their doings, and they often serve the higher demons and act as minions for those ones, I guess. And finally we have the ephemera, also referred to as devils, who are the weakest and most numerous types of demons, and they're just a little bit more than a manifestation of a thought or emotion. So just kind of bad things that float through the world that you may not pay any mind to, but that you know that they're there.
Yeah. Again, that can then allude to the psychological reference we had earlier.
Yeah.
Exactly. Crossovers there. And obviously some demons can be categorized by their physical form or characteristics. So like we said earlier, there's imps, which are generally considered the lowest ranking demons. We have horned demons, which are demons that have horns as a physical trait. There's the succubi and the incubi, which we touched on during our witches episode, I believe.
Yeah, we did.
Which, go and check that out if you haven't already.
Mm-hmm.
And these are demons that appear in female or male form, often associated with sexual temptation.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of weird cases out there about people that have been possessed by demons that have had some sort of succubi or incubi attachment to them. So that's a whole thing on its own. And again, there's nightmares, which is a type of demon associated with
nightmares and dreams.
Dreams. Again, changed and referenced in pop culture many times, like Nightmare on Elm Street. He's a nightmare demon.
Yeah.
Again, pretty scary.
That also relates to things like sleep paralysis.
Yeah, which you see nightmare demons and stuff.
And astral projection as well.
Yeah, I've experienced many sleep paralysis
so
episodes.
have I.
Many.
Yeah.
And they're just disgusting.
They
they're
really
horrible.
are.
They're so terrifying.
Especially while you're so vulnerable as well, while you're sleeping.
Yeah, and you can't move.
Yeah.
Speak. It's so bizarre. I find it so strange. And finally, there are fire and water or ice demons, which are categorized by an elemental alignment.
Yeah.
So those are the general physical forms of demons within a more Christian, Western background. I'm sure there are many, many physical demons that are across all religions across the world.
Yeah, there are so many that cover different places, and even with the elemental ones as well, there are going to be ones that cover more land-based or earth-based. There's probably some to do with space and the stars, but at the moment
Probably.
we don't know because this is what we found within our research.
Yeah.
So after us talking about what demons are and where they come from and how their hierarchy works, there's only one real question left. At least there was for me when I was researching.
Yeah.
Which is, we know where they come from, we know who they are, and we know how they work. But what do they want?
What are their intentions, essentially?
Yeah, exactly. What are the intentions of demons?
Which generally is like the scariest question of them all.
Exactly.
You know, what do they want?
And here's what we found. So, demons are commonly believed to want power, chaos, and to corrupt humanity, often by deceiving, oppressing, or destroying individuals and their faith.
So harsh.
I know, very harsh.
Yeah.
But very, like, to the point. Like, they know what they want. There's
It's just pure evil.
It's
That
pure
is
evil.
The whole intention.
Yeah. They are also motivated to possess bodies, to experience physical sensation, and to cause suffering. In some beliefs, their goals include a desire to stop humans from achieving spiritual salvation or to cause pain to a divine entity.
It's just mad.
So essentially it's saying that if demons are causing pain to people, then they're causing pain to God, because like humans are meant to be God's creation, right?
Yeah.
So
Enjoys that sensation.
yeah.
Just like messed up.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see a lot of like people that are so influenced by this
Yeah.
and this evil,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And in religious context, these are people that would be, you know, somewhat influenced or seen to be influenced by the devil.
Yeah, 100%. They would be under, like,
'Cause you
they
see
would be
these,
considered possessed.
yeah, you see these characteristics in society now.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep. And as for many of the goals that these demons have, they are most of the time kind of related to humanity. And that is because humans are obviously their own beings on their own separate astral plane. A lot of the times we can't see these creatures, whether it's an angel or a demon. We can't interact with them a lot of the time either.
no.
And it's more about your beliefs and where you come from and what you believe in. However, when it comes to the ones that are related to humanity, it puts us all kind of in the same box. The first one that we have is the deception and corruption side of things. So it is to mislead people away from spiritual salvation and encourage them to act against their divine will. So
Just twisting the minds of people that are like faithful.
essentially brainwashing them and steering them away from God, so
Yeah.
that they're more susceptible to possession eventually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the whole intention.
Mm-hmm. Then there's the control and oppression aspect of it, which is to gain power over individuals and to cause suffering, sickness to them, and ruin through both direct and indirect actions. So whether that is, like, just going to keep it very simple for an example, but say you got very sick, then obviously that's a direct action to you that a demon could cause. They could make you sick, but they could also make somebody very close to you sick. And that would be an indirect action because it causes you to maybe lose your faith if somebody you know gets very sick.
Yeah, it can stop you believing.
Yeah.
You know, if that's something you do, then, you know, something terrible happening to you, but to a close family member or around you, you can start questioning your faith.
Yeah, exactly.
That is seen in this context as an act of the devil.
Yeah.
To steer you away from the very thing that you devote yourself to.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Yep. And that leads us to the last point for the humanity-related ones, which is destruction. And the intent with that one is to destroy homes, possessions, faith, and lives to cause overall chaos in the world.
Yeah.
And that may come at the cost of wanting your soul or not. That is just for them to relish in the mishaps and
It's
the
like pleasurable almost,
evil
isn't
that
it?
they can cause.
Just enjoy
Yeah.
it. And, obviously there's goals as well, like demonic goals that are related to other types of aspects.
Mm-hmm. The next one being possession.
Exactly, which is, there it comes in a few different forms. The first one being is to gain a physical existence in the world. So many beliefs state that demons are disembodied and seek a physical body to inhabit, often to experience the world in the way that they can't do otherwise.
Yeah.
So again, it's that possessive idea where they, use a host as a vessel in order to actually like feel like they are part of the world in that regard.
And especially in like the human realm as well, where it is a completely kind of separate space to where these creatures and entities like live, essentially, because like I said, we can't see them most of the time, we can't interact with them most of the time. It's their way of breaking into this realm and causing just as much havoc here to make it as bad and as helpless and as bleak as possible, like it already is in their world.
Yeah, they're just sort of trying to bring their misfortune, their like demise and pain into a world that is, essentially been created to not, but also created to have that balance and that sense of sin. So it's trying to, again, embody and humanize themselves to feel like they are part of it, and also in order for them to carry out their goals that are related to humanity, which we spoke about earlier. Again, so their ideas, to torment and dominate as well, which is to possess humans, like we were saying about earlier, to terrorize them, and in some interpretations to subject them to earthly pleasures and gratifications, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, but that is really like kind of baffling that it would want to like subject people to earthly pleasures and things like that.
Yeah.
But that is, I feel like, commonly associated with Hollywood right now. Like, kind of when people say that they offer their soul to the devil and they get things in return. Yeah. I feel like that is what that is saying, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's saying that, like, if you cooperate with these things that are causing you pain and are terrorizing you, then you'll reap benefits, essentially, of pleasures and gratification and all these, like, things that people want.
But there's a reward, like deceit.
Yeah.
Deceive people in
And
order to make them believe there's something on the other side that they want.
Exactly.
That lust.
And what they don't know is that comes at the cost of your soul.
Yeah.
And your salvation
Absolutely.
At the end of the day. Or at least in the eyes of God. Which leads us to the last section of demonic intent, which is spiritual and divine being related reasons. So the first one is to spite God, and it basically says that it's to deceive and corrupt humans as a way to humiliate God and cause pain to him, which is kind of just destroying his system from the way out.
Yeah.
From the inside out, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's twisting, like I said, the very origin and the genesis of everything. That it's to, again, the key word in there is deceive. Yeah. And deceit and corruption. And that's very much what it is, whether it's to the intention to destroy the perception and the image of God, humanity, or to simply possess someone.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's all to take you and your soul away from God and away from anything that could possibly save you. Any type of hope. Yeah. It removes.
It does its best to try and rid you of that very thing that you want. Everybody wants a hope. Everybody wants a happy ending. Everybody wants something good to come out at the end of a life that's inevitably full of ups and downs. Yeah. And if the devil's idea is to, or a demon's idea is to thwart that, essentially, it's just not great.
No.
For anyone, whether you believe or not.
And the same applies for divine beings as well, which is actually the last part of this. Yeah. And it basically is just wanting to prevent people from achieving spiritual growth and entering a heavenly afterlife.
Yeah, which is what we were just, saying about, essentially, in that regard, is that religious aspect, will stop you in all ways of reaching the very thing that it can't.
Yeah.
or once was a part of.
Exactly. It's just throwing blockades in your way.
Yeah.
Because I would suppose that you could describe it as being jealous of something that it can't achieve.
I mean, jealousy is like a strange emotion anyway.
Yeah.
But I think it can definitely be associated with the devil.
Mm-hmm.
And talking of divine goals, a great goal for you, listeners, would be to go and subscribe to Bad Boo. Share us around,
Go and like our pages. Go and follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, like our videos, give us a little comment.
Yeah. And, we absolutely love all the support we've been getting. It's been growing, slowly, but it's been getting there.
Mm-hmm.
We've definitely got a lot more of you getting involved with our posts and interacting with us on Facebook and especially on TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah.
And of course, we have our very exclusive Patreon page, which is the Boo Crew.
Mm-hmm.
Which is designed for you hardcore fans of horror and everything supernatural. We'll be reading whispered spooky stories, creating concept soundtracks for upcoming horror films, and a whole load of different things, Q&As, film reviews,
Discord chats.
So just a giant community for you all to get involved and to feel like you're not judged and part of a safe, thriving and loving community. And that's what we really want to build.
100%.
So go and check the link in the description. It's costs less than a cup of coffee a month.
Mm-hmm.
£3 plus a bit of VAT for essentially all of that a month, extra content, a chance for you to get involved with our posts, be a part of our spooky spotlight, part of our ghostly gossip. And yeah, we just can't wait to hear from you.
We really can't wait to hear from you. And obviously, the more that this community grows, the more it enables us to do for you guys, and we can create even better content in the future.
Absolutely. So go and head to Patreon, share it around, and just enjoy.
And don't forget to send it to your nan.
Please send it to your nan. She would love to be part of the Boo Crew.
Yeah.
It's nothing better than meeting up with your nan and saying, "Hey Nan, you see the new Boo Crew episode that Sam and Jodie have brought out? It is amazing."
Yep. Get all your family involved. Sit down and listen to it for dinner.
With your dog.
With your dog.
Or your fish. It doesn't matter.
Fish. Or your lizard.
Whatever it may be. Go and check it out. Which nicely leads us on to our next section. We're going to talk about our lovely ghostly island in the Isle of Fright.
For this episode's Isle of Fright, we have a bit of a close one to our hearts as we actually visited this place the other day.
We did. If you haven't seen on Instagram at Bad Boo Productions, we'll leave the link to the post in the
description below.
As Jodie's iterating, we went to go and visit a little landmark which has demonic history.
Yep.
Called the St. Catherine's Longstone at Motterston on the island.
Yeah. So yes, we very much did. We took a little plunge and we went up there on a very rainy and foggy day. And
it was so horrible.
It was really, really horrible. We were expecting to be able to drive all the way up, as there's quite a hill that you have to go up. But turns out that you actually can't, and you have to walk up a half-a-mile trail.
Yeah.
And
pretty steep as well.
It started to absolutely piss it down.
Yeah.
As we got out of the car.
Umbrella was destroyed.
Yep, as soon as there's a bit of the woods that you have to start walking through at the beginning, and then you get out and you're on the very, very top of a hill, and you look out and you can see the cliffs of the Isle of Wight, you can see Military Road, usually, but it was all absolutely smothered in fog, so we could barely see anything.
So ominous and scenic.
Really ominous, really creepy.
Very, very creepy.
But a perfect day to go and visit Demonic Stone.
Yeah.
So, that leads us into the story of St. Catherine's Longstone. It's more commonly known as the Longstone at Motterston, and it is the Isle of Wight's only confirmed megalithic monument, and it is the remains of a 6,000-year-old Neolithic long barrow, or commonly known as a communal burial mound, essentially.
Yeah.
So, it is basically culturally and historically a really significant site. Located near the village of Motterston, which is on the southwest coast of the island.
Yeah, so it's we spoke about Black Gang Chine in our last episode, and I know that's quite a famous place on the island. It's sort of along the west end, side of the island.
Yeah.
So in the diamond shape, it's on the bottom left sort of point that goes up, to the west point.
Yeah. Now, I know you're probably listening to this and you're thinking, Jodie, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's just a stone.
It's a stone on the top of a hill.
Yeah. It's not just a stone, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, what's the big deal? Well, we're about to tell you what the big deal is, so calm down. The big deal is that this stone is basically a remnant from a competition with the devil.
That's crazy in itself. Big bombshell right there.
Yep.
Bam.
Bombshell has entered the Bad Boo Villa.
Oh boy.
And it's the devil throwing a stone off a hill.
Yeah, what's he doing?
What's he doing on the Isle of Wight?
Yeah. So in terms of the site that it's on, it consists of two pretty large pieces of local green sandstone. So when Jodie and I went to visit the Longstone, I thought it was going to be a little bit smaller than that.
Yeah.
Than where it was.
I thought it was going to be about the height of a person.
Yeah, a little bit taller possibly.
Hell no,
exactly. It was much taller than I thought. So again, it consists of two stones, which there's an upright stone. This is the most prominent feature, which stands about 4 meters tall. So like we said, it's 13 feet. Yeah. Which is pretty tall. That's a lot taller than I thought it was going to be.
It's about 2.5 me's.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about like the me's from We.
No, 2.5 Jodies on top of each other, vertically.
And then there's the recumbent stone.
Yeah.
So the one that's laying down, essentially, which is a smaller, flat stone that lies at the front of the upright one. So when you walk round the bend past all the bushes, it sort of opens up into this field. Yeah. And it's just there.
It's quite peculiar, actually. It's like there's a mound that drops down all around the entire thing, and there's loads of trails that leads into loads of little woodland on kind of in a semicircle shape on the outer half of the circle. Half of it on the back bit is bushes, which has all the little trails and stuff. Yeah. But the other bit is just like a little gravel path. Yeah. Which has obviously been made by people. Yeah. But that just kind of goes off into fields. Yeah. But it's like the stones are on their own little mound, like apart from everything. Yeah. It's sort of really quite peculiar.
But all the way around the whole site, we were walking all the way up the hill, and you can see like vast valleys, and you can see like the St. Catherine's Lighthouse. You can see like the sea was so choppy and so rough. Yeah. There was I was looking very, very closely. There was no signs of any stones like it.
No.
Around.
There's nothing around
Not
at all.
At all.
There's no reason for it to be there.
And it's just a perfectly plonked, giant, 13-foot rock.
That was really satisfying for you to say then. Perfectly plonked.
Perfectly plonked.
Somebody clip that.
Clip it. But, it's such an interesting and such a peculiar looking thing.
It is,
yeah. It's what gives it its weirdness, and it's, it makes you really question its origin.
So just to get a little bit more into the history before we give you the good old dirty stuff about why it's related to the devil, with the Neolithic long barrow that we were talking about, so the communal burial mound, it basically says that the stones are remnants of the entrance to the burial mound, and the Neolithic period is around 4000 to 3000 BCE. I still haven't learned what my fancy prehistoric numbers mean, so don't ask me what that means, but it basically makes the monument a really rare example of how a long barrow was built effectively, and it's not made of chalk and it's not made of limestone like they usually are across other parts of England.
So it's built on essentially a ground that it shouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly.
It shouldn't, because biologically it shouldn't be there.
Yeah, because stones will usually form in places that have chalk or limestone kind of around them. But now, the bit that you've all, I trust, been eagerly waiting for, because you should be, it's the folklore and the legend behind it.
So, again, we've been talking about the stone. Yeah, it shouldn't be built on what it's built on. Yes, it's a bit random, but does it associate with the devil? Well, yes, according to myth and legend, is that the popular local legend on the Isle of Wight that gives the monument the St. Catherine's Association involves a mythical competition that happened many, many moons ago, which the story claims that St. Catherine and the devil held a contest to see who would control the entire Isle of Wight, which is crazy in itself. And the large upright stone was supposedly thrown by St. Catherine from the nearby St. Catherine's Down, and the smaller recumbent stone, like the one that's laying down, was thrown by the devil, but it fell short, essentially.
Yep.
So the standing stone's dominance over the smaller vanquished one is often said to symbolise the triumph of good over evil on the island, which I find is really, really cool.
I think it's really cool.
And, you know, when you go there with that in your mind and that context in your head, it's really weird seeing it.
Really,
and you think
really weird.
that coupled with the fact that it's built on something it shouldn't be, and it's there on like the stones are sitting in a bit of land that it shouldn't, you know, biologically speaking, shouldn't be in. Really bizarre.
And this, basically, from our research, is saying that the communal burial mound kind of was built around the stones, like the stones were already there. Nobody knows exactly how the stones got there. They just know that there's a burial mound related to it after it was already there in the first place.
Yeah.
Which is even weirder.
Yeah.
Also, a burial mound, like for something kind of associated with death to be in that area, is even more chilling.
Yeah, there's
Especially
a lot of chillingness to this.
Especially because when you go up there, especially when we did, there was nobody else around. When was it? We went... Huh?
There was one house, wasn't there?
There's one house which is about 50 metres away from the stones.
Yeah.
It's just at the top of a hill by itself.
And a weird, ominous tree.
That's
right
planted directly opposite the Longstone.
No leaves. You know, I know that at the time we're recording this, it's autumn.
Yeah.
So in October, there should be like very dry brown leaves on all of the trees. But this very tree stood out on its own because it had nothing on it.
Nope.
It was very bare, it was very skeletal, it was very just scary.
Yeah. And you felt like you were being watched the entire time you were up there.
Yeah, we both said when we were there, we had a weird feeling.
We kept on glancing over to the house and trying to check if there was anybody like looking at us, but there wasn't a car in the driveway, so there wasn't anybody there.
Nope.
But it felt like you were just being stared at.
Yeah.
Completely.
Felt like we were trespassing.
Yeah, exactly.
We shouldn't be there.
Yeah. You just felt like you weren't alone.
So it's really, really interesting. And again, like there's the whole thing that we researched as well is that there are actually witches, like white witches, and you know people that get involved in rituals that actually go up there to this day.
Yeah.
And go up there purposely to cleanse the place and rid it of evil intentions and to bless it, essentially.
Yeah, well, people go up there for different reasons. There are still kind of more occult involved witches and magic associated people that head up there to do satanic rituals or more occult practices. But then there are also, like you said, white witches who go up there and perform like
cleansing rituals,
like safety kind of veilings,
it's
those
really weird.
types of things.
All these years on, like according to legend, that there's still like a pretty much a battle of good versus evil that still goes on in terms of rituals. You know, you have like the satanic worshippers that go up there, and you also have the white witches that try and cleanse it of that. So there's always that conflict.
That battle between good and evil.
Yeah. It's such a incredible symbolism. You know,
it basically just means that in this particular area and with this Longstone that we've been so excitedly talking about, it's become a very prevalent focal point in the local community for celebrating solstices and equinoxes in the lunar year. Yeah. And that's believed to have gone back all the way to even Saxon times that people have been celebrating things up there.
Yeah. You know, it's by the town, like we said, Motterston, and that's where all of this comes from. Is later used, like they say, in the Saxon times. And the name Motterston likely derives from the Old English word mootstone, suggesting that the site was, like you say, later used in Saxon times as a meeting place for these purposes. So that's really interesting because I had no idea that Motterston, which I heard about, have gone on many country walks to, and you know, with my grandparents and with my family, like Merston, Motterston, you know, there's a history behind its name, and it's associated with this legend, which is just wild. That's so cool to me. Yeah.
Okay. And carrying on from personal experiences, like we said, because we went to the Longstone, we're now going to go into our next section where instead of giving you guys a little kind of this is true or false, we're going to read a little personal account from somebody instead, and you're going to tell us what you think. So this is Boo or Bust. So, as I just mentioned, for this episode's Boo or Bust, we're going to be doing another little Reddit story like we did for our Witches episode. I will give a trigger warning for this one as it does involve quite sensitive topics. So if you are going to go and read this afterwards, as we will leave the link in the description to the Reddit page, please be aware that there are some very, very distressful personal experiences in this.
Yeah, we're going to leave some of those out just for the sake of the video.
Yeah, we won't be reading them in here. We'll just be skipping over those bits. But just be aware for if you do go and read this later on in your own time. However, moving on. This is in the paranormal subreddit, and it is from a user called Raised by Spirits. Great name.
Great name.
And this is titled as Haunted by a Demon for 15 Years, answering all of your questions and giving advice. Basically, they've gone through their entire experience of what they had in these 15 years, basically. And then at the bottom, they go through what they did to kind of make it better and stuff. So we won't include that, but we'll tell their story, essentially.
Yeah.
And it goes like so. So it all started when me and my brother and father moved into a house. It was a 3-story house with 2 apartments on each floor. The house was over 100 years old, but well renovated and right across the street from my new school. And we were surrounded by a lovely park. All in all, it was an amazing place to grow up. I was 5, maybe 6 years old at the time. Back then, I noticed a lot of shadows in the corners of my eyes, and this went on for about 10 years without me realising that it is in fact not a normal quote-unquote eye thing. When I was young, I was extremely afraid of the dark, and for some reason I always thought Batman was going to stand there when I opened my eyes and kill me, open bracket, thinking Batman was a very tall, dark, black figure, which is going to be important for later on, close bracket. I've always been extremely sensitive to the energies around me and the paranormal, so my guess is that I already sensed this presence but didn't know what it was yet. I was also dealing with depression and insomnia ever since I was very young due to bad family stuff, but that is also relevant to this story.
When I got older, about 12, my mental issues started to worsen drastically. I was constantly sleep deprived. Weird stuff started to happen. Objects would disappear and reappear after months. Stuff would randomly fall off shelves and harmless stuff like that. But I noticed it, and it was odd. I started hearing voices yelling or whispering my name. It was the voices of my dad or brother most of the time, only to realise they weren't home or asleep. It got worse pretty fast. It was a long time ago, and I can't remember in what order things happened, but there were multiple auditory things going on. Gurgling like someone was being choked to death from the middle of our living room, strange music awakening me at night coming from the corner of my room, to then get more silent and disappear again, knocking on my walls, always 3 times. Horrible demonic screeches, footsteps, mainly coming from the attic, which was right above our apartment. Sometimes it sounded like someone was throwing around whole closets up there. Really loud rumbling in the middle of the night. By that time, I already knew my house was haunted, but I didn't know what it was yet. So me and my neighbour and my friend Natasha, open bracket, which was my age, and we grew up together. She also had an older brother, which was my brother's age, called Peter, close bracket, started to investigate. We realised that she and her brother had been bothered by the entity before I have, and they had a guest room that was mainly where it stayed first. Ever since I lived there, I could not enter the room because of the presence was so overwhelmingly evil, almost like the air was crushing you. That same feeling I got after it started, and had it for 24/7 for about a year. That feeling as if someone is standing right behind you holding a knife at your back. Very, very uneasy. I'm sure some of you know the feeling.
So, I tried to communicate with it, and gave it lots of attention thinking it was a ghost, which was my biggest mistake. Things got a lot worse very quickly, and it had completely attached to me because I was the perfect victim, and a buffet of negative emotions, which I later learned was their main energy source to make them stronger. So that one night, I looked at the shadow in the corner of my eyes and saw a black silhouette of a cat jump off my bed and disappeared mid-air rather than evaporating like smoke. I jumped around because I sensed someone standing behind me, and there it was in full form. It was what many people call shadow people or the Hat Man. I'm sure there were other terms, but I later learned that these shadowy figures are demons and that they appear in various forms, often with glowing eyes or a hat. Mine was blank. No face, no hands or feet, not even a real head, but it was about 2 meters tall and filled up the room with dark, smoky shadow and stared into my soul with its non-existent eyes for a moment. I froze in shock, but as fast as it appeared before me, it disappeared again. After that, things got really bad because I started to really research and knew what I was dealing with. I got obsessed. I didn't sleep, I didn't eat, that was all I cared about. He started to play mind games after that point, which was probably at the peak of this haunting.
Due to my depression and tendencies, I welcomed darkness. I wasn't scared of many things. After that night, I almost started to cry when the lights were out or only half on. He knew that and used it against me, shattering a light bulb in our apartment every 2 days or so. We were pretty poor, so we wouldn't always get a new one immediately. And since I was awake at night, I had to deal with it. He was active during the day too, but when the clock hit 2 to 4 a.m, it was the worst. That's when they are the most active. One night I walked into the kitchen, and before I could turn on the lights, I stood on something weird. I turned on the lights to find the floor crawling with maggots. Every inch was covered in them. I was shocked, grossed out and panicked, and tried to shovel them up and put them in the trash, basically crying through the whole thing. Somehow they were light and floaty and disappeared into the walls after a few minutes. Open brackets. There weren't any cracks, which added to my confusion. Close brackets.
One time I talked to it all day, open brackets, just speaking into the air because I felt its presence, close brackets, and hoped it would let me sleep late that night. I remember saying something like, I gave you attention all day now and would appreciate it if you let me sleep now. The energy in the room suddenly got really aggressive and I felt something choking me for a few minutes. That was the one and only physical attack I experienced. They generally don't want to harm us because it would be counterproductive. They will, however, do it if it helps their grand plan to break us. Basically, I was an exhausted wreck because I spent my nights literally fighting off a demon. I knew I needed help and registered in a paranormal forum. There was a guy who ended up helping me twice. He was magically talented and able to astral project and things like that. Back then, he strongly weakened the demon and it actually stopped it for a few years. Every now and then, little things would happen, but nothing made me worry. He still followed me everywhere and had a strong negative impact on my emotions. There were other reasons that contributed to it, but I strongly believe that he was to blame for the most part.
This whole experience was extremely traumatizing, like living in a horror movie. Besides my friends that lived in the house, no one believed me. My dad didn't take me serious, and my brother knew stuff was going on, but he was scared, so he decided to ignore it and leave me alone with it. There were so many more things that happened, but I can't possibly write them all down here, and this post is already long enough. I saw some apparitions over the years or heard weird stuff, but overall it left me alone. Not sure if it's waiting for the right time again or if he was too weak. I went to the clinic and met my future best friend after this. We started to communicate with the demon on her Ouija board. There wasn't much useful stuff, he said. I learned that they just tell you what you want to hear, and that you can basically not believe a single word that they say. I developed some kind of fucked up mental connection with him.
Well, about 2 years ago, he became active again. I went to bed at night, and my boyfriend was already laying there. Put out all the lights and closed my eyes. I opened them and noticed there was a light in the living room. As I looked, the light was turned off again. He waited until I looked. The light plays was what he used to do years ago too, and while this might seem harmless, I knew that it was starting again. I was so scared that my body started shaking violently for hours and my boyfriend had to comfort me. I contacted my friend that helped me years ago and spent a couple months developing a plan to trap the demon in an object. My friend ended up going behind my back and doing something far more risky, but it worked, and the demon is gone for good. Open brackets. At least I think he is, because the connection is severed and I don't feel him here anymore, but I will know in a few years. Close bracket. And that is the story. Afterwards, they go on to give a little bit of a description about the major signs of a demon, and they also talk about their mental health issues, which do get quite deep. So again, this is another trigger warning. If you are going to read it, it talks about very
dark topics.
Very dark mental health associated topics and very dark actions that can become because of them. So please be wary if you are going to read it. But going back to Boo or Bust, that encounter over so many years as well is absolutely horrifying.
That's what, 15 years?
15 years, they said, yeah.
It's just so mad. That's
I
like
know.
15 years of your entire life just taken away by putting so much energy into just ridding of said demon, in the house. Which is just, it's awful.
It's so awful.
And I think in terms of how deep it got, I mean, like I say, all that energy being put into something like that, and it's toying with you that whole time, even that physical aggression point, it's very much derivative of what we were saying earlier and about the characteristics of a demon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you think, Jodie, is it a boo or is it a bust?
I think this is definitely a boo. And
I agree.
I think
I totally agree.
this is one of the most graphic and messed up boos that we have had so far.
It is.
And I think the fact that this is like a real person who experienced this firsthand and for so long as well. Like,
so
always
young.
In these films, they like portray it for like a few months or like across a year or even in a week, it just develops.
Yeah.
But for 15 years straight, that's the entirety of secondary school twice over, which is insane.
So it started when she was 12.
Exactly.
That's just insane.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely crazy.
so young and to be targeted like that. I definitely think it's a boo because there are things in there that are not very cliche and very like different.
But it's so understanding as well, like the fact that she had such complex mental health issues obviously makes you more prone to not believing in salvation, especially spiritually and things like that. So it makes you more vulnerable in that sense.
Spiritually vulnerable.
Yeah, and then your dad not like believing you, and your brother being too scared to admit anything. It's a very real situation. So I don't think that this person is lying about any of it, to be honest.
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't put it to that.
I wouldn't put it to that,
especially because there's so many deep topics in there. It's quite graphic. Things that we left out. So again, it's very dark. That's a very dark story, but I think it's true.
Yeah, I think it's true as well.
I believe it if that person told me.
Yeah, and it just makes it even more compelling about the topic that we're talking about today. And Absolutely. It proves that these things are real. Yeah. And they are out there.
Yeah.
So if you're lucky enough to not encounter them, then consider yourself blessed, basically.
Yeah, very much so.
And that leads us on to a not so blessed movie for our next section of The Silver Scream.
So as per tradition of our podcast, of the Bad Boo podcast, we want you guys to see if you can guess the film that we're going to be speaking about in our Silver Scream section this week. So we always start it off with a little movie quote for you guys.
Just to give you a little clue.
A little clue. See if you guess it right. I mean, this is a very iconic line. So here we go. The power of Christ compels you.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's a little quote. It's said many times over the film. It's said in other films.
Yeah.
But notoriously, it has been said in the 1973 phenomenon.
The Exorcist.
Oh boy, The Exorcist. I mean, where do we even start?
I know. I hadn't watched this film until this year, actually.
Yeah. Jodie was late to The Exorcist game.
Yeah, Sam convinced me to watch it because I knew how bad it was and I knew the rumours around it and I didn't want to watch it at all.
Yeah.
But Sam convinced me and I prayed before I watched it.
Yeah.
And I cleansed the entire room after we watched it.
And you had the rosary hanging around, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I had a rosary wrapped around both of our hands while we were watching it, just in case.
So there's no demonic entities that would attach themselves to us from the film.
But for those of you that don't know... Somehow, yep. The 1973 film The Exorcist is a landmark American supernatural horror story that is widely considered one of the greatest and most unsettling horror films ever made, and has even been labelled the scariest film of all time.
That's been like the marketing phrase for the film that's been attached with it since it came out. And I still think, it very much does hold up that mantle.
I think it does. I think it's got more competition nowadays as media develops, but because I think it's still up there.
I think artistry and exposure to things have become a lot more, not accepted, but a lot more kind of shown in mainstream cinema. And I think a lot of people have like gone away from sort of the very mundane, sterile kind of Hollywood movies.
Yeah,
typical
100%.
Hollywood movies.
I think that indie films especially are on the rise right now.
Indie movies are like the thing.
Yeah.
And back in the 70s, obviously, wasn't so at all. And The Exorcist being, you know, a Hollywood movie, and it being that, like, different, you know, especially, like, watching it now, you know, it still stands its ground against some of, like, the biggest horror films that are really obscure and freaky now. This was made over 50 years ago, which is insane, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like it's just, yeah, a film that's like half a century old.
Yeah, it's truly a staple in its time. And not even just in its time, it's just a staple for the genre.
It will be forever.
Overall.
It's made its mark.
Yeah, I feel like when you think horror films, you think The Exorcist, you know?
You do. It's part of like the sort of core, iconic,
Yeah.
you know, horror of fame
Yeah.
movies, you know?
It's not even a cult classic. It is the cult classic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So just to give you guys a little bit more information about the actual film first, it's directed by William Friedkin and it is written by a William Peter Blatty. So a lot of Williams in the bigger names of this works.
Williams must like the old Exorcist.
Apparently so. So if you know a Will, show him this film. So it was actually adapted from the 1971 novel written by William Blatty into the screenplay for the film 2 years later. And the entire thing was loosely based on accounts of an exorcism from 1949.
It's really interesting. I knew it was based off of something like an exorcism before.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise it was like back in 1949. I thought it might have been something.
Which, if you think
recent.
about it, that was only 70 years ago. Like, there are people around from 1949 still.
And the stuff that goes down in this film,
Yeah.
it's quite, you know, you think about, you know, if that's actually based on something like true, that's quite freaky.
And stay tuned because we will be getting a little bit into the exorcism that is based off as well.
Oh yes, so grab your popcorn, I tell you. So, a little plot summary for those of you that for some reason haven't seen it or have been guided away from seeing it. Please go and see it because it is a staple piece.
It is very good. It is quite ironically haunting though. So if you are skeptic about watching things that are very sacrilegious, is that the word?
And cursed, I suppose.
Cursed, yep, it's definitely deemed a cursed film. Then make sure that you pray. Maybe put a little bit of holy water in your drink before you go and watch it. But yeah, it is a film. It's not going to hurt you. You can enjoy it, but just do whatever you feel is necessary to be able to enjoy it safely.
Oh yes.
Yes.
So the film's main action takes place in the Georgetown neighborhood of Washington, D.C. And the story focuses on Chris McNeil, which is a famous actress in the world of The Exorcist, and her 12-year-old daughter, Reagan. So it starts off with a possession straight from the start. You know, when you watch it, you don't really realise that it happens right from the beginning, and there's little Easter eggs and signs right at the start that allude to the fact that she's already been possessed. So Reagan begins to exhibit increasingly strange, violent and vulgar behaviour, which baffles a series of doctors and medical specialists across sort of like the first act of the film. It causes the family, like the mother, to turn to the church, which is when the medical science fails, and a desperate Chris turns to the Catholic Church, which is obviously a very predominant,
it's like
religion.
what we were saying earlier. It's the predominant one in the Western world, so it's portrayed the most within Western media.
Yeah, it is. And this is from her suspecting that her daughter is demonically possessed. So the priests are enlisted to help her, and this comes from the help of Father Damien Karras, who is a priest and a psychiatrist who is undergoing a crisis of faith following the death of his mother. So after a chilling interview with Reagan, Karras becomes convinced that the girl is possessed and requests permission for an exorcist. So again, there's that conflict in himself, but yet some event like seeing Reagan in the state that she's in keeps him clinging on to that faith. But is it necessarily something good, And then obviously it follows on from that to be like an exorcism, which is what the whole film's based on. Which, you know, is granted permission for him to do from the church. And they also send Father Lancaster Merrin, who is an elderly priest and archaeologist, with previous experience battling the same demon, who is named Pazuzu, who is a real demon and was found earlier in the form of like a totem in an archaeological dig in Iraq. So you see at the start of the film, Merrin, the priest, he digs up the totem, and that's where you start instantly get the idea that there's something attached to it. And this, you know, you get little flashes of the face of Pazuzu across the film, which I think is the one of the scariest bits.
I think it's the scariest bit as well.
It's very subliminal when it comes up, but obviously he leads the exorcism. You know, when he gets to the house, which leads to the climax, which I'm not going to say, but it's very grueling, and it's a very physical and spiritual battle between the two priests and the demon Pazuzu. So it's
for Reagan's soul.
For her soul, you know. So it's that there's a lot of character journeys in this film. You know, the priest and Reagan, they go through many changes, especially Reagan. As a character, is so sweet and like likable and innocent, and like loves drawing and colouring. Goes from that to such a vulgar, evil being. That's a massive part of it that's so like shocking. So
from that, obviously you can imagine it's a very graphic film from the storyline that Sam has just given you. The film obviously has a legacy and an impact on the world, essentially.
Absolutely.
So it caused a huge cultural phenomenon, as its success was just the first true kind of blockbuster of its time. And it was like a real visceral and graphic depiction of supernatural goings on, which really shocked audiences and terrified people, leading to the widespread like controversy as to whether things like that should be shown in cinema or not.
That's crazy. Like, you know, there's fainting spells and debate over its subject matter, because it was so controversial when it came out.
Understandably so. Like, even when you watch it now, you can kind of think like, oh my god, this is a lot. It
still makes me feel like very weird watching it. Like, I'm very, very uneasy.
I feel really uncomfortable watching it.
And yet it's, like I say, it's over 50 years old. But it still gives you that, like, one of the only films of, like, that sort of time. I mean, there wasn't a film at that time that was like it.
No, not at all.
You know, you had, like, films like Psycho, which completely changed the course of horror. And that was 13 years before that. And The Exorcist, like, shifted it again, but in a very monumental, like, we're going to go one step further in terms of, like, how explicit we can go.
Especially for supernatural horror as well. Like, there wasn't really anything to kind of define the category at the time.
No.
But this really made its mark, and it's still left it there to this day.
But it's like the grandfather of, like, supernatural horror. Really.
100%.
It's like the one that people like. It's like the one. It's the supernatural horror movie.
It is. And even though there was a lot of controversy around it, it is actually critically acclaimed, because it's one of the very few horror films to ever be nominated for the Best Picture Oscar.
That's so unheard of.
It also won 2 Academy Awards, which was Best Screenplay Adaptation and Best Sound, which we'll be getting into the sound in a little bit.
I mean, that's, again, it is such a brilliant movie, and it's so well done. I mean, because it was so controversial. It's gone outside the mold, and that's what creatives really should be encouraged to do. Step outside.
100%. And especially from a creative standpoint, it's such a realistic portrayal of how these events can unfold. And I think because it's so graphic, that's really what makes it kind of shocking and compelling when you do watch it. And the fact that it was also purposely shot in like a documentary style filmmaking way makes it feel like you're there and it's real and you're grounded in the action as it's happening.
And there's not really any music that goes on aside from the Tubular Bells classic theme, which we'll be speaking about in a bit. Across the film, there's not really any music aside from that. So it's quite uneasy in the sense that it's just, you kind of just there experiencing it raw. With the priests, with the mother, with Reagan.
Well, it's like it's real because there is no music going on in the background.
That's what I mean. You're part of it.
Like it's real life. Like there's not any like real music in the background unless you're playing. They didn't have Spotify or anything back in when this was shot. So unless you're on Amazon Music, Spotify, or Apple Music, which go and listen to Bad Boot on Spotify as well.
Yeah, it's on there right now.
If you are listening to us on Spotify, congratulations. This is your shout out.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, there was no music, obviously.
No.
In the majority of the scenes, like you just said.
Yeah.
And there's no music in real life, so it makes it feel so raw. Which is even more like, even talking about it just gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't like it. Usually for all of these episodes, we rewatch the film kind of in the few days leading up to us recording this.
Just so it's like super, super fresh.
Yeah, so we always record on a Wednesday. Obviously, the episodes get released on a Friday. And we always try and watch the films on like a Monday or a Tuesday while we're doing our research and our write-ups. So we've got it like fresh on our minds. But this one, Sam really did want to watch because it's one of his like kind of favorite films. But
100%.
I really didn't want to watch it again. And it's so embedded in my head from the first time that I watched it a couple months ago that I was like, you know what? Nah. I was like, we're not watching it again right now. We'll just go into the episode with our memories. That actually leads us on to the other little bit of cultural impact that it had, which was about the ratings controversy around the film.
Yeah.
So where we mentioned that the movie had quite shocking content, it led to a considerable large debate over time as to whether it should have been an X-rated film or if it should stay as what it is, which is an R-rated film.
I can't believe it's released as an R.
Yeah, so basically if it's R-rated, then that means that you can be 17 or under, but you need to be accompanied by an adult and it's fine for you to watch. Or the X-rated is that you have to be over the age of 17 and you basically have to be a full-fledged adult to be able to go and watch the film.
An R is essentially pretty much the equivalent of like nowadays.
Like a 12A,
yeah, or
15-ish,
a 15
yeah.
thing. So imagine in 1973 going to see The Exorcist and you seeing it as like, if you're in the UK, it's like a 15.
Yeah.
But it's like that. Blimey.
Especially knowing the contents that are in the film. So you go into it being so unsuspecting of how bad it actually is.
Yeah.
And when I say bad, I mean like graphic and gory.
Yeah. And it's the same, what we've researched is that like the R rating was done to allow for a broader commercial appeal. And I know a lot of films do that now.
Yeah.
But especially for a film like this, like critics argued that it left like many people completely unprepared for the intensity of the film's content.
Yeah, which is probably why I imagine that a lot of people are like scarred from it, is because it's had like that lower rating.
People are completely scarred. Yeah, it's just dreadful.
It really is.
That people are so scarred, and the rating is very dreadful.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it should be raised, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I don't know, they wanted to get it out to a lot of people, but who knows what the success of it could have been if they didn't do that.
I think, what do you think? Do you think if it came out nowadays that it would be rated higher than what it was or is from its previous
I think it'd still
release?
be an 18. I mean, when they've re-released it on like Blu-ray, like the Blu-ray that we've got is like under the new like BBFC
okay.
like thing.
So it's
which
an
is like
18
the
on
rating, like the British sort of film classification rating. It's still an 18.
Yeah. As it should be.
So if it was released in cinemas again, now it'd be like an 18.
Yeah, so don't go taking your 12-year-olds to see the re-release of The Exorcist.
Don't do that.
No, don't do that. Don't take your 15-year-olds to see the re-release of The Exorcist.
Don't.
Take your 18-year-olds.
Yeah, it would scare people nowadays.
Yeah, it scared me, and I'm 25. But there's another reason why it's scary, and that's because, as we touched on a second ago, it is rumoured to be a cursed film. So for this next little bit of the silver screen, we are going to be talking about the Exorcist curse.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of different kind of components that tie into the Exorcist curse. We're going to go through 4 of them, essentially, which are like the main ones.
Yeah.
So there's the deaths of the cast and crew that happened. There's the serious injuries that occurred on set. Then there's the kind of turmoil that it caused in cinemas. And then just a little bit for the skeptics to balance out the argument.
Yeah.
So the first one is the deaths of the cast and crew. And for this one, approximately 9 people connected to the film died before or shortly after its release. This included actors Jack McGowan, who plays Burke Dennings in the film, or Vasiliki Maliaros, who plays the mother of Father Karras in the film, who passed away shortly after completing their roles. There was also the deaths of a night watchman and a special effects expert, as well as a few other ones related to the cast and crew's relatives.
That's sad. I mean, we spoke about this kind of thing in the Poltergeist
We
episode
did,
last
yeah.
week.
There seems to be something about films that came out between the 60s and the 80s that had like really kind of dark and cursed sets.
Yeah, this is, again, it's really awful. It comes with apparently there was a devastating fire. So the main set of the McNeil house mysteriously burnt down, caused a 6-week delay in the production. But eerily, the only part of the set that was left completely undamaged was Reagan's possessed bedroom.
Which I think is absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean,
How scary is that?
I remember reading this fact ages ago, but when I read it again, I thought, blimey.
Yeah.
You know, you just, like, it's a weird coincidence that the whole thing burnt down aside from the room that was possessed in the
I
story.
feel like that's just like a big like gulp moment.
It is a big gulp.
You hear that and you think like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
That unfortunately leads us into the serious injuries aspect of the curse, where we are starting with actress Ellen Burstyn, who plays Chris McNeil, or the mother in the film, and she suffered a permanent spinal injury during a stunt where she was violently thrown across the room by a wire harness. And the scream that she actually let out from the incident was kept in the film.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah, when you see her being thrown across the room in the film, that was her genuine scream that she let out in that moment because of how much pain she was in, which I didn't know either.
No.
And again, it's just like
Whoa.
a big gulp of like, oh no, like why do they do that?
More stuff, more turmoil.
And the other incident that we're going to talk about is Linda Blair, so the little girl who plays Reagan McNeil, or the girl that gets possessed in the film.
Who also actually looks like my mum when she was young.
She does look very, very close to Sam's mum. I've seen pictures of it, and it's uncanny, the resemblance between the two.
We're not talking about her when she's possessed. So
No.
Don't worry, mum. It's not that.
No.
Not that version of Reagan.
But the Reagan McNeil in the film, Linda Blair, she also fractured her lower back during a scene. So quite similar in like the spinal injury kind of area, as the scene involved a mechanical shaking bed. And because of her lower back breaking, she actually developed scoliosis and chronic pain for the rest of her life as a result.
I mean, that's really strange.
It's really, really strange.
That's another one that I remember reading about, that she had hurt herself.
Yeah.
So obviously she's still living with that now. The actress. I mean, it seems to be something with backs.
Yeah.
The mum and the daughter both like permanently screwed up their back.
I know, it's really like a bit of a strange coincidence, which leads us to our next bullet point, which is actually strange coincidences. On the set, there were other really strange incidents that occurred, including the death of Max von Sydow's brother right before filming his first scene in the film, and the director William Friedkin actually eventually asked a priest to perform a blessing on the entire set to calm the nervous cast and crew. Which, if you've got to take it that far, maybe it's a sign that the film shouldn't be made, in my opinion. But here we are 50 years later,
and it is as iconic as it is.
It is.
Obviously there's counter arguments that we were speaking about earlier about, from skeptics, and many involved with the film argue that the incidents were due to a multitude of different reasons that weren't out of like a
supernatural origin
kind of origin, like you say. This included long production times, so like the filming lasted for an unusually long 9 months, which is quite a long time in the world of film production, increasing the statistical likelihood of accidents and personal tragedies among the large cast and crew, just out of probability essentially. And they're also alluded dangerous directing methods that are adopted by William Friedkin, because he was known for using intense and extreme methods to achieve realistic reactions including firing guns on set, slapping actors, and using rigorous practical effects like the harness that led directly to the actors' injuries, which I didn't know that he was very like...
I didn't know that either, but he sounds very kooky. Maybe he was possessed and that's why he made the film. Maybe that's what led to these strange going-ons. Yeah.
Maybe the film was a message, you know.
And there wasn't just strange going-ons actually on the set, but this happened in the cinemas afterwards. So there was mass fainting and vomiting, which is the most famous part of the reaction in cinemas, where numerous reports and commentary news footage confirmed that audience members were physically overwhelmed by the graphic and intense scenes, with people reportedly fainting and vomiting in the aisles and even on each other in cinemas and having hysterical fits.
Imagine being in there and seeing that.
I know, that would have been absolutely gross.
It's like
and
5D.
Horrific and scary.
It's like a 5D experience
Yeah.
of The Exorcist, if there is such a thing.
And understandably, this led to some theatres like kind of getting medical attention before these screenings would start, and so they would have ambulances and medical staff on standby to deal with the overwhelming number of peoples and distressed patrons who were experiencing this at the time. There were even rumours of a lawsuit about people who had been suffering from heart attacks or even miscarriages during the screenings.
Yeah, I definitely knew about that one as well.
Yeah. I hadn't heard that one, actually. I knew about the vomiting and stuff, but not that one.
Yeah, there were some not really serious things that went down at the cinemas and at the screenings of The Exorcist. They were like, I think probably because if you think about it back then, no one had ever seen anything like that. Because I know Psycho paved the way for some, you know, showing on-screen violence, and, you know, did some like very controversial things like killing off the main character just 30 minutes into the film roughly.
Yeah.
But The Exorcist was like just incredibly graphic.
It really is.
And that again, like, people wouldn't have seen anything like The Exorcist ever before. You know, I think in today's world we can kind of think, why are people like such a visceral reaction to something like that? But again, try and transport yourself back to 1973 if you weren't born around then or weren't around then. Nothing like that visual media wise was
existing at the time.
in existence.
There was nothing like it.
So, you know, that led to like people fleeing the theatre. So
Which
like,
was popular with Psycho as well, wasn't it?
yeah, it's the same kind of thing that happened again. There's like large numbers of people like ended up walking out of the screenings mid-film. They're unable to handle the content, and the theatre managers reported chaos and a level of distress that they had never witnessed before. And these probably are people that worked in like, you know, movie theatres for years. You think about this impact is so visceral.
Yeah, and that distress for these owners and managers of the theatres also came in the form of bath bags or vomit bags, as we say over here in the UK, because barf is a very American word.
It is barf bag.
But it also became famous because it got people in line outside of the viewings who were actually waiting to be handed vomit bags, like bath bags.
They were there giving people vomit bags.
Yeah.
And like we, you know.
It was part of the whole like publicity of the film. Was like, oh, you're going to need this type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, again, whether it was publicity driven or not, that type of thing is certainly going to get people talking about it, saying, oh yeah, they were handing out bath bags or vomit bags outside the cinema.
Yeah.
It's got to be horrible, which it is. But, you know, that would have definitely added to the perception of how graphic it is.
Yeah, it is really, really graphic. And I think that even going back to what we were just talking about at the start with the deaths and things like that, it had more deaths than the Poltergeist film.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely know The Exorcist being more cursed in regards to perhaps like overall cinema and cast and crew, like kind of tragedies or reactions.
Yeah.
You know, but I think the Poltergeist is a bit more iconic in regard to its curses, in the sense that it's known, it's like that's kind of what it's famous for.
Yeah,
whereas The Exorcist is sort of famous for being so like paving the way for like a new age of horror movies, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And it comes with a curse too. So it's kind of like the deluxe Poltergeist, even though it came out first, you know, it came out before it.
Yeah, it really is just its entire own separate genre of kind of real life horror at the end of the day, if it's got all of these like
it is
kind of like ricocheted actions that come off of it.
Yeah.
And it's just entirely devastating and tragic that so many bad things happen to these people as well.
It really
so
is.
all we can do is wish them peace wherever they may be, as there doesn't seem to be much of that attached to this film.
Definitely not, no.
And it's kind of understandable that there isn't, because where we mentioned before, it's based off of a real case.
A real life exorcism.
Yeah.
Back in 1949.
Mm-hmm. So it was the case of an anonymous young boy in the novel that it was based on, who was given the name of Roland Doe, or sometimes Robbie Mannheim in the press, as it was actually used to protect the boy's real identity, but eventually leaked that his real name was Ronald Edwin Hunkler. And the author, William Blatty, who obviously wrote the novel based off the real life event, turned it into a screenplay when he was just a student at the Georgetown University, and it left that much of a lasting impression on him that he wanted to turn it into a screenplay and a film, essentially.
Yeah.
So the real case goes as follows. 13-year-old boy Ronald Hunkler from Cottage City in Maryland, who came from a German Lutheran family, is the subject of strange occurrences that allegedly began short after the death of the boy's spiritualist aunt, Harriet, who had introduced him to the Ouija board. This was the beginning for the family, who reported hearing unexplained scratching noises in the walls and floors, and even furniture, including the boy's bed, which would move violently on its own, and objects would fly across the room. These weren't the only phenomena, as in one of the most chilling reports, there were red scratches that appeared on the boy's skin, sometimes forming words. When his mother was considering taking him to his relatives who lived in St. Louis, the words Louis reportedly appeared scratched on his ribs. This eventually led to the family seeking out the help of Catholic priests, who performed a series of exorcisms on the boy, with the main exorcist being Father William S. Bowden, assisted by Father Walter Halloran, whose nose was allegedly broken during one of the exorcism sessions with Ronald. The exorcisms took place over several weeks in Cottage City, Maryland, and later in Alexian Brothers Hospital in St. Louis, Missouri. The outcome, which was kept in a diary by one of the attending priests, basically said that the exorcism was successful and that the boy returned to a normal life. So while the film does sensationalize elements like the head spinning and the green vomit, the core to the story about the shaking bed and the guttural voice, the projectile spitting, the physical violence, and the long, grueling battle that the priest had against the demon were actually from the real case in 1949.
And even when you're reading that out and talking about it, I could point out like another big crossover from the real life exorcism and the film, like with the scratching of the word Louis into his skin. In The Exorcist, Reagan actually has like words that come out of her stomach, almost like scratched from the inside. So again, it's like there's some definite influences you can see. You can see where he got it all from. This is where like great movies, I believe, all come from, which are like real life experiences and real life things or experiences. And in William Blatty's case, who wrote about this exorcism really, or like fictionalized it, is obviously very inspired by those events. And that's, I think, where like great movies come from.
And just from like a little bit of my own knowledge, I watched a Ghost Adventures episode a very long time ago where they actually visited St. Louis, and they also visited, I believe, Cottage City as well. And they went to the house. It was either the house of the parents from the exorcism, or it was the house of the auntie who had taught him like how to play the Ouija board. And there's another incident that isn't described in a lot of the novels and things like that, and it was actually that an upside down cross appeared indented into the boy's stomach during the exorcism as well. So I just thought I'd add that in there for anybody that's
I didn't know that one.
Like curious.
Yeah, that's really cool. Not cool in that regard, but it's like you can see the crossovers. Yeah,
it was such a grueling and terrifying case
And film.
100%. So the only way that we're never going to be able to put into words actually how terrifying it is and how imprinting it is on your brain and even your soul. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the only thing that we can say is go and watch it.
Go and watch it. And you've probably heard a very, very iconic part of the film, in which we shall be exploring.
Even if you haven't meant to hear it on purpose, even if you haven't seen the film, you will know about this next bit.
We'll be exploring the soundtrack in Shivering Soundtracks. So, The Exorcist is obviously, like we were saying about the film, so iconic. But I don't think it would be as iconic if it wasn't for the soundtrack that was put to it, which was from musician and composer Mike Oldfield under the track Tubular Bells, which is 49 minutes long, instrumental piece. And of course, if you didn't know, it wasn't originally written for the film.
That absolutely blew my mind when I found that out. It's crazy that they just kind of stumbled across this and were like, yep, that's the one.
Yeah, it's really creepy.
It is really, really creepy.
Because we've been conditioned to,
associate it
with the film. Yeah.
Yep. So it actually came about while director William Friedkin was browsing through records at Atlantic Records, and it was the haunted intro that immediately drew him in, wanting to put the piece on the film, essentially.
Yeah. And this, again, talking about Atlantic Records, it comes from when Richard Branson, who you probably have heard of, gambled because he was a very young entrepreneur, and it was a very big gamble because he thought Oldfield's piece was so obscure that he thought it'd be great to get the company off. And it is largely down pretty much to the Tubular Bells and Mike Oldfield that Virgin Records and Virgin as a brand is as big as it is.
Yep.
Which is amazing. It is such a haunting piece of music.
It really the context, is. It's just even by itself, it's so haunting, let alone in a film like that.
It makes you feel uneasy just listening to it, turn off.
Exactly. And funnily enough, Oldfield played nearly all of the instruments himself, and there were 20 tracks overall that were layered on top of each other to create the piece.
Yeah, this was through very strange recording methods in terms of instrumentation in 1973, including the use of layering pianos, glockenspiels, which are tuned percussive instruments, ding 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 sounds, and tubular bells, of course, all layered together, but all slightly out of sync to sound interesting and a bit strange.
Yeah, just to sound a bit off-putting.
But Mike Oldfield actually didn't intend for it to sound frightening. He wanted it to sound a bit obscure, a bit different, but the main intent was changed, in terms of how it's perceived because of the film.
I mean, he just created it as a piece, as an artist, because it was just something that he thought fit well, and
he was only 19,
which is
when he recorded that.
Absolutely insane. Could you imagine being just out of college by a year and creating one of the biggest tracks to ever grace horror history?
Yeah.
That's insane. At the age of 19?
It became such an iconic track in horror because of William Friedkin discovering it. And Mike Oldfield actually recorded it at a place called the Manor Studio, which, funny enough, is a location that was later rumoured to be haunted itself.
It just gets deeper and deeper, doesn't it?
It does.
Now we have a haunted soundtrack in a cursed film.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You can't get much better than this.
Oh, you can't. No. I mean, I thought that was so cool when I found that out. And the film The Exorcist, when that was released, it was one of the first instrumental soundtracks / albums to go to platinum in history, plainly because it was tied to demonic possession and dread,
which nobody had ever really explored before.
No, and nobody would have put that piece of music to that. But nowadays in pop culture, as soon as you hear it, you don't think, you say, oh, that's Mike Oldfield, unless you really know it.
Yeah.
The Exorcist soundtrack.
Yeah.
And
that's just because of the dissonance that's in it, essentially. It really creates that sense of unease, which the film carries already by itself, just through its imagery. But the Tubular Bells soundtrack, as it is an entire kind of entity of its own.
It is.
It's
entirely
unforgettable.
Yeah.
And it's just one of the most unsettling things I think you could ever hear in your life.
Oh, it really is.
Yeah.
It very much is.
It haunts you just as much as the film does.
Yeah. I mean, like you say, coupled with the graphic imagery, it's so unsettling, and it creeps me out listening to it, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, what is The Exorcist without Tubular Bells?
And what is Tubular Bells without The Exorcist?
They made each other. That's what I believe.
But speaking of haunting things, that leads us into our next section of ghostly gossip. For ghostly gossip this week, instead of giving you a personal story, as me and Sam were too busy tracking up to the Longstone this week, we are going to give you a real life account of a girl called Anneliese Michel. And Anneliese was a German woman whose life and tragic death became widely known due to the 67 Catholic exorcisms that she underwent in the year before her passing.
I mean, I heard of her name before.
Yeah.
But when we were researching about it and I was looking at it just before we started recording, it's very, very like extreme, and it's very notorious in terms of exorcism history.
It's one of the biggest renowned
demonic
cases
in history.
Yeah. And to have 67 exorcisms is like completely unheard of.
Yeah.
It's genuinely brain baffling.
It is. I believe so as well.
Yeah. So just getting back more to the story a little bit. Unfortunately, Anneliese had died of malnutrition and dehydration at the age of 23.
So young.
I know. I know. And her parents and the two priests who performed the exorcisms were later convicted of negligent homicide of failing to seek medical treatment. But going back to the start of everything, Anneliese was born in Liebfing, Bavaria, which is in West Germany, to a Roman Catholic family, and she attended Mass twice a week, as one would do as a
Absolutely.
Roman Catholic.
Devout Catholic.
At the age of 16, she had a severe convulsion and she was diagnosed with temporal lobe epilepsy. She was later also diagnosed with depression and manic depression, or bipolar disorder, and was treated in a psychiatric hospital. By the age of 20, she reportedly became intolerant to various religious objects and began to hear voices. Her condition worsened despite medication, and she started exhibiting symptoms like aggression, self-injury, and drinking her own urine.
Wow.
I genuinely have no words for this. It's so like, I can feel it in my soul, not in my soul, in my heart. It's like really harrowing to read, because this is like a real person who has had to go through all this torment.
It's a lot of shit essentially going through.
And whether it's like psychiatric or whether it's paranormal and demonic related, it's still absolutely
either way,
awful either way.
And I find it like interesting how like just diagnosed with depression like all the way back then.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously mental health and mental illness was very much seen as like
taboo. Yeah.
Or very negative. So there was that diagnosis, so it must have been really very serious.
Yeah, it must have been. But also to even have that diagnosis, for your family to still ignore it and kind of pursue their faith and steer towards exorcism instead of seeking medical help, it's just awful.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah. I mean, who knows what would have happened nowadays, but it's just such an unfortunate case and like turn of events.
Yeah.
Returning to the case, she took psychiatric medications for 5 years, including the anti-seizure drug and mood stabilizer Tegretol, and the antipsychotic drugs that would hope to improve her symptoms, but they didn't improve anything.
And that's kind of where you start thinking, is it something else?
Yeah, exactly. When
these
the medications don't work,
not working,
I suppose is when you start to kind of explore other avenues.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what happened for Anneliese's family. Herself and her family eventually became convinced that she was possessed by a demon, and they appealed to the Catholic Church for an exorcism. Initially, it got rejected, but 2 priests later received permission from a local bishop to perform the exorcism in 1975.
Just after, I know The Exorcist was more of a, like a, American thing, but around the same sort of time, it was, not saying this out of coincidence, but I mean, like, that's a lot of Exorcist-esque things in sort of culture.
It's the same kind of port of call of like having to go to your church, they contact to see if they can, which in films and stuff they exhibit that they contact the Vatican, because that's obviously the lead of like Catholic church and goings on. So they contact the Vatican, see if they can approve an exorcism, and then it gets back to where it needs to be,
because they're very serious, that's why it get rejected and not very widely allowed. Well,
it also takes a lot of like spiritual power.
It does, and it's so dangerous as well.
They need to get out trained professionals to do it.
It's so dangerous.
Just to preface this by saying that she was born in 1952, so this is about 23 years later that it got agreed upon. So she was suffering with these things for a very long time before it got to this stage. It's not like her family just jumped from one conclusion to another.
It was a long haul of, this is how bad it's gotten over a long period of time. Eventually,
the priest began the rites to the exorcism, and the family reported stopped consulting any doctors when this did start. Annalise underwent 67 Catholic exorcisms during the year before her death.
It's mad, all in 1 year as well.
And she stopped eating food eventually, and she unfortunately passed on July the 1st, 1976 at the age of 23.
That's so wild. Such a terrible end.
It really, really is, and so young as well, to just have your life kind of stolen from you, whether it's from mental illness or from paranormal powers or neglect. Either way, it was things out of her control.
She couldn't, it wasn't things she could necessarily grasp.
Exactly. The autopsy report stated that her cause of death was malnutrition and dehydration, which was the result of nearly a year in a state of close to starvation while all the exorcisms were being performed. And when she did pass away, she weighed only 30 kilograms.
Or 66 pounds. That's just 30 kilograms. I mean, like, that is such a light person. If someone weighs that is, I mean, clearly from what happened, it's not healthy. It's a very
unhealthy state to be in.
That's like I say, it's not healthy to the point that obviously what happened to her. But I just can't believe that. 30 kilograms.
I know.
Such a light weight.
And it just goes to show how badly her physical state was, and how bad it got. That leads us to the kind of trial and aftermath of everything that did happen. Her parents and the 2 Catholic priests that conducted the exorcisms were tried and convicted of negligent homicide. They were sentenced to 6 months in jail, which was reduced to 3 years of probation along with a heavy fine. Doctors testified during the trial that Annalise was not possessed, suggesting that her manifestations were a psychological effect of her strict religious upbringing and her epilepsy. The defense played tapes from the exorcism sessions where the priest called 6 demons that had been possessing her, and this included Lucifer, Cain, Judas Iscariot, Nero, and Adolf Hitler, who had identified themselves.
That's crazy. That's wild.
And her story loosely inspired the 2005 film The Exorcism of Emily Rose and the 2006 film Requiem, after that case had obviously
it's such a famous case, and understandably, because it's so horrible, so graphic.
It really is.
And such a terrible aftermath.
It just leaves you completely at a loss for words.
And whether it was, psychological, whether it was demonic, or both, regardless, it's still just dreadful. What happened to her. And I think as far, it went as far as an exorcism for a reason. So there must have been something for the church to be like, hold on a minute. This is serious. We need to get these guys out of there to help her. This is devastating.
It is really, really devastating. It's just heartbreaking.
It is.
I know people are probably thinking why we've included this in our ghostly gossip section of the video, with it being such a hard-hitting, like, real-life case. And we approached that with a tremendous amount of respect for this case and for Annalise and everything that she went through.
Absolutely, 100% we do.
And it's more so the aspect of, do we think that this was medical negligence? Do we think that it was demons winning?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know.
Yeah. Necessarily,
we can't say, oh, it's definitely that or that. But either way, there are signs pointing to both, a mixture of both. It's just awful. Yeah. It's a horrible, horrible case.
And the fact that it's real, it means that things like this do happen in the world.
Yeah,
and
they do.
Like,
very
whether
much.
People are suffering from mental health conditions that are being blamed on paranormal experiences, or vice versa, they're having paranormal experiences and it's being blamed on mental illnesses that they may or may not have. It just goes to show how far these things can be taken. Whether they should be taken there or not is another, like, story. But
interventions need to be put in place.
Yeah, 100%.
To help people like that are in these situations, 100%.
And I think we just have to be thankful that nowadays there are closer monitored procedures that people can go through for mental health and mental illness and all these types of things. And there are numbers that people can call if they're having struggles with particular things, etc., etc.
Yeah, it's so important to reach out to people.
It really, really is.
You're struggling, it's, speechless.
Absolutely speechless. So just to give a little bit of glow to the episode so that we don't leave it on such a dark note, we're now heading over to our spooky spotlight.
As we do every week, leading up to our themes of the episodes and the topics, we run a little poll on Instagram to see who guessed the content of the episode correctly. So before we put any teasers out or anything, we give a little poll and just say, what do you reckon the theme is for this week's episode?
Just a wild guess for everybody to tune in and give us their opinions.
Fun activity. And it's plainly for the fact that people can have a little shout out on this. So if you haven't done it before, go to Bad Boo Productions, at Bad Boo Productions.
On Instagram,
TikTok. But on Instagram, the poll, go on the story on a Tuesday and vote and see if you can guess it right. If you get it right, you'll be in amongst some of these names.
You will be. And it is also a little marketing technique for us to see what you want us to talk about.
It is. Yeah. It helps us know what you guys want, essentially. So we just want to shout out the people that guessed the topic of demons correctly amongst the others, which were angels, of course, demons, gods, and rituals. Yeah,
and we did have a lot more people interact with this poll than we did on the last one. So, thank you to everybody that participated in it.
So we're going to read out the 4 people that got it correct this week. So Jodie, if you'd like to shine a little spooky spotlight on our spooky participants in the poll that got it correct.
I certainly will. As usual, we have the single most best guesser ever, apparently, as this particular person has been the spooky spotlight for, I believe, the past 2 episodes as well. All of them so far. Maybe he's got psychic powers. Who knows?
He is the Bad Boo.
He is the Bad Boo. And that, for those of you that don't know, is Sam's father, Kevin.
Kev. Dad. No. Well done.
Well done. But this time, we have 3 accompaniments for him.
Yeah.
We have Sam's lovely mother, Joanne.
What a mum, Jo. Amazing. She's found the poll this time.
She did find the poll this time. But this time we actually have a catch. And without me mentioning it to either of my parents, they both got it right as well. And coincidentally, your parents and my parents were the only people that got the right answer this time.
Amongst the others who got it wrong.
Everybody did vote, but everybody got it wrong.
So, again, thank you to everyone who voted, but you got it wrong.
Yes. But the other people that did get it right are Kim and Finn.
Jodie's mum and dad.
Yes, they are my mum and dad.
So the parents are our spooky spotlight. But if you want to be part of the spooky spotlight, again, head over to the Instagram, check the stories on the Tuesday, get involved with the poll.
Yeah.
And you could be shouted out.
Just make an educated guess. That's what you got to do.
And, there's little clues. Listen to the music, take a guess what it might
yes.
be. So,
and if you get stuck on that question, just go and watch another Instagram story and come back to it and answer it later. Just make sure that you answer the question so you don't miss out for any points.
Yeah. I mean, we just want to say we love all of you that have interacted with us and all of our content. We couldn't do it without you. So, like I say, please head over to Patreon. If you can, spare £3, less than a cup of coffee a month, for loads more exclusive spooky content. Be part of a great spooky community. No judgment. We're all in it to have a great time.
And we're all weirdos, so let's be weirdos together.
We are. So let's just share a great time. Enjoy talking about stories and experiences. You can hear some of our spooky story picks, some reviews, live hangouts, and some soundtracks composed by me for upcoming horror films. So head over there for £3 a month. Pretty good. That's what I say.
Can't go wrong. And that leads us to the end of today's episode. And we hope that you are just as scared as we are, but that you've enjoyed it just as much as we have.
If you've enjoyed tonight's journey into the depths of hell and the dreads of demons, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for Bad Boo updates and new episodes, as there's plenty more frights, flicks and folklore to come.
You can also haunt us on socials at Bad Boo Productions, where you can interact and leave suggestions for future episodes and contribute through polls like we just spoke about.
Yeah. If you're after more creepy content, then our Patreon is now live. So if you'd like to hear and even see more of us, then head over there for exclusive Boo Crew videos, stories and live streams.
That's all from us for this disturbing and devilish episode today. We've been your haunted hosts, Sam and Jodie, unraveling the dark so that you don't have to. And until next time, keep your lights on, your doors locked, and remember, the shadows are never